Hey folks, today on Well, I have a question to ask you. Just a little question, just a little question, just a little question. This is something I want you to take it to heart. Use it, life, business, what have you. Are you prepared to fail? Are you prepared to fail? Are you prepared to fail? Can you fail and proceed forward? Can you fail? I'm asking this because this is a very important question that we have to face in ourselves, and we have to conquer this part. Because here's the reality: any success in life comes from your willingness to try and fail. As a matter of fact, not just to try and never fail. See, one thing that a lot of people struggle with is everything's got to be perfect. It's got to be perfect. I got to show up perfect. I got to show up perfect. You can't build that way. Failure is part of the process of success. It just is. Period. In every aspect of life, every great success comes with a litany, a long line, a stretch of failure. And it's something that you really have to internalize and really learn to accept and appreciate, and like eat it up, and really, you know, you know, learn to invite the failure. Invite the failure. Now, all failures aren't equal, that's for sure. But here's the reality. Here's the reality. You have to understand something when you're building anything, a business, a family, a life, your health, anything. You have to be prepared to fail. You have to be prepared to fall down and get back up multiple times, many times. Even after you've reached success, you still have to keep falling and failing forward. That's a popular phrase, you're starting to hear more of, but here's the reality. There's nothing new about this. What happened was, for generations, we went through a process, and, where it was forgotten to fail. If you failed at anything, you were a failure in life, and that was just, that's a lie. That's a one way to keep people, suppressed and oppressed and everything. Because the reality of it is you got to be able to fail, and fail big, fail often, fail consistently, and keep pushing forward. And here's the reality: nothing worth having is built without failure. Nothing worth having is built without failure. There's just we have to get comfortable inside of ourselves, with understanding and comprehending. Okay, that failed. That doesn't mean I'm a failure in life. You see what I'm saying? That thing failed. That thing failed. Kind of like driving a car. See, I've done a lot of driving over the past several years. A lot of driving. When I'm driving, long distances, one thing that I kind of found was kind of interesting. You get behind somebody who's really going slower than the flow of traffic, and so you need to get around them, right? And you find, especially if like on a 2-lane highway, but you got the hash marks in the middle, so you can pass. At certain points you would pass them, and then you get on down the road, and then you get stopped at maybe a stoplight or whatever. That person ends up catching up with you anyway, even though that they were going slow. Here's the reality. So that fail, sure, you could have just stayed behind them and got to the same place at the same time. But if you didn't take the chance in the first place, because here's what happens, and I did this a lot of times driving. Sometimes, you don't get stopped at that light. It's a timing thing. When you do it more often, you get the rhythm of the road, you know what's going on. But if I didn't take the chance, I was definitely going to be stuck behind a slow person, going slower. But I took the chance. Sure, they ended up catching up to me. Okay, the light turns, green. On to the next one. You know what I'm saying? Guess what? Here's what won't happen. Next time, they won't catch up to me again. Well, maybe I'm not telling you to speed. I'm not advocating for speeding or anything like that. But I'm just saying, these are just lessons. These are everyday struggles that we go through. And the whole thing about it is you have to be willing to, commit to a process. Commit. You have to be willing to commit. Now there'll be a whole nother video. I'm gonna talk about commitment. But over the past several years, we've in fully adult lives and meetings and adult settings and everything, fully engaged in building businesses and everything, and meeting and networking with people. We've talked with and dealt with commitment and how people struggle with commitment. And nowadays, when you don't have to commit so readily, I do the quotes, you don't have to commit so readily to things. People are very, very weak when it comes to committing. But you have to be able to commit to a thing in order to not fail. In order to not feel like you're a failure, even though you're going to fail. And so my whole conversation for today is you're going to fail. Know that. Take it. How many times? Can I fail 10 times? Can I fail 20 times? Can I fail, 50 times? How many times can I fail? I'm going to keep failing until I succeed. And that's the commitment. That's what we have to, I'm going to keep failing until I succeed. Period. As long as I got breath in my body, and as long as, God has got me here on this planet, well, even if I'm off the planet, but as long as God's got me, got me breathing, I'm gonna keep failing until I succeed. And that, you have to have that, and that's one thing that people don't, want you to know. A lot of people don't want you to know that. A lot of people don't want you to know that. When you're building businesses, for sure. A lot of people don't want you to know, that failing is actually a part of the process. Matter of fact, in the beginning, see, a lot of people are trying to get money for businesses and this, that, and the other. Here's the reality. The first money into a business is failure money. The second money into a business is failure money. Probably the third money into a business is failure money. Until you start succeeding and to become profitable, maybe 3 or 4 times in. The reality of it is, the money that's being invested, is on the outset is failure money. Period. It's testing, it's A/B testing. You got to test the market, you got to test the product, you got to test the systems. All this got to be tested. Period. Failure is part of it. You got to keep testing it. You got to keep testing it. We're seeing a lot of things going on right now. We're wondering, well, they got all this money, they're doing all the big things. Guess what? And this is why the money's not trickling down. It's not going to trickle down because they need all that money to test things, to fail. They're going to use a lot of that money to fail forward, to fail into space, to fail, building this thing. They're blowing up rockets, literally blowing up rockets. They're blowing up a rocket and be like, oh, well, that didn't work out like we wanted to. Like, what? They just blew up. That's tens of millions of dollars right there that just blew up right there. And then, we learned a lot from that. Yes. And this is happening right now every day. And you're worried about whether you're going to post something. You're worried about whether you're going to blog something. You're worried about, whether you're going to, make yourself know. You're worried about where you're going to put your brand out there. They're blowing up rockets, testing them, and you're worried about somebody's going to, like or dislike. They're going to have something to say about you. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? We have to be prepared to fail forward. We have to give ourselves grace. We have to give others grace when we're building businesses, for sure. We have to be able to say, well, this is why this is why our system's actually built for this. It's actually built for this. When you learn that and understand, our system's actually built for you to invest, for you to take the risk and invest and innovate. That means to take to fail. Invest in failing at something. Invest in failing at something. Try something hard. Invest in trying something hard and failing at it. Our system's actually built for that because that's how great things get built. Everything. Period. You name it, I guarantee you there was a lot of failure before it. And so take to heart, So are you ready to fail? If you're not ready to fail, if you can't get comfortable with failing, you're not going to be able to succeed at anything. In a family, if we knew what we knew about raising children before we had children, we would never have children. but the reality of it is, if you've raised children, they're a blessing. But I tell you what, it's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of failure, a lot of oops, didn't mean to drop them. Oops, oops. You know what I'm saying? Oops, I shouldn't have told him that. Oops, I shouldn't have. I should have never let him learn that word. There's a lot of failures as a parent. A lot of failures as a parent. But we get them to adulthood, and then they procreate, and then they have children, and this cycle continues. The reality of it is there's no perfection in life. There's no perfection in life. At best we can just have a consistent run of anything. The reality of it is fail forward, fail often. They say fail quick, whatever forget what they say. Just natural life. When you get out here in nature, I thank God for, come out to my neck of the woods sometimes. You see nature unfold. You see, oh, that's a pretty little animal. And then another animal whoop, snatches it up. Well, that's a pretty little animal. Then a car or truck comes by, boom, runs them over. Something like, oh no. And then another animal comes and eats them up. Like, oh, wow. The circle of life is beautiful till it's not. It's beautiful until it's not. And then you're driving out like, oh, it's so pretty. You go outside and you smell the flowers. Oh, it smells so pretty out here. And then you walk by something that's like, oh, that's not a good smell at all. Something is dead. Yes, that's nature. That's nature. The ups and downs, the highs and lows, the failures and the successes. That's nature. That's life. When you embrace that, when you understand that, you get to flourish and grow in a way. You get to, really start to work and master yourself in a way where you start to see and bear fruit from your failures, and stack them. Stack them. Don't, and here's the thing about your failures though. Now your failures, you don't want failures that harm other people. You see what I'm saying? Those are failures that self failures. Okay, I didn't work it out that way, but you don't want failures that harm other people. But failures do sometimes harm other people. You have to be very cognizant and aware of people. You have to really, be deliberate and intentional. Whatever you're building should not be harming people anyway. Not in the civil society, at least ways. Should not be harming people anyway. And so you should factor that in. But the reality of it is, so failing and that's harming somebody that's not a good failure. You know what I'm saying? So we need to be responsible. That's part of being an adult, being responsible. But the reality of it is still don't neglect, the process. And the process of life is failure. Failure. Are you ready to fail today? Is my question. Are you ready to fail today? Been dealing with so many people who only respond and will only, get up and only want to try to show up to perfection every day and get nothing done. That's the other part. So many people are getting absolutely, positively nothing done because all they focus on is perfection, and failure is not an option in their mind and in their eyes. So they try nothing and they do nothing and they get nothing done, and then they stop you from doing anything. They stop you from getting anything done. That's dangerous. All right. So today on Well, are you ready to fail? God bless you.